It's been raining for 3 days straight, and you haven't seen sunlight since it started. No sun to warm the ground, no dry firewood left outside, just gray rain for cave walls and everyone you know. Ash presses close against Nock's side, whimpering softly every time thunder rumbles somewhere beyond the cave mouth. Everyone you live with is packed into the same small, smoky space, and nobody can leave. If your whole tribe couldn't wait out a storm together without turning on each other, you wouldn't be here. So what did ancient humans actually do when the sky simply refused to clear? This is the strange, cramped, oddly cozy story of surviving a week when the outside world disappeared. 40,000 years ago, a storm like this didn't just ruin a day, it erased the entire outside world. Even today, hunter-gatherers in Tanzania do the exact same thing your ancestors once did. When heavy rain hits, the Hadza retreat into rock overhangs and small caves and immediately light a fire. A typical rain shelter might hold 10 to 20 people at once, entire extended families pressed together under one small overhang. Then versus you, they didn't check a weather app, they just watched the sky and ran for shelter. Once inside, there was nowhere else to go, so the entire group settled in for the week. Hunting stopped. Gathering stopped. During the wet season, tracking prey through mud and rain is far harder anyway. So instead, the group leaned on stored food, tubers and dried meat saved from drier days. For days, the only real job left was simply waiting. And waiting, it turns out, is one of the hardest things a human being can do. Then versus you, a rained-out weekend stuck indoors is a tiny echo of what your ancestors actually lived through. Here's the part almost nobody expects. The cave itself wasn't even fully dry. Water seeped straight through cracks in the rock ceiling, dripping onto exactly where people slept. Archaeologists have found post holes dug straight into ancient cave floors, evidence of a roof built inside a roof. People build a small shelter inside the shelter, just to keep the ceiling's rain off their sleeping spot. Then versus you, even a cave wasn't automatically dry, so they engineered their own tiny roof anyway. Weeks of living in one space forced a kind of order, a place to sleep, a place for fire, a place for trash. Archaeologists call that back corner a midden, a garbage zone, still recognizable tens of thousands of years later. A week of rain didn't just test survival, it quietly invented the first version of a floor plan. But staying warm and dry all week came with a brutal, invisible cost: smoke. With no wind to clear it and no chimney to pull it out, smoke simply filled the air they breathed. Researchers studying French cave sites even found an ideal 5 by 5 meter zone where smoke cleared best, and early fires almost always landed inside it. Scientists have actually found chemical traces of that smoke, preserved inside ancient human teeth. That soot has turned up in teeth from Israel's Kizim cave, 400,000 years old, and Spain's El Sidron, 49,000 years old. A 2022 study by researcher Fuente Fernandez at a cave called Tito Bastillo in Spain measured exactly how bad it got. Trapped inside a small cave for days, smoke levels could climb high enough to genuinely damage human lungs. Years of repeated smoke exposure likely left permanent damage in many people's lungs, a quiet cost nobody could see or treat. So people learned, slowly and painfully, exactly where inside a cave a fire could safely burn. A few feet in the wrong direction meant the difference between a cozy night and a choking one. Then versus you, the vent above your stove is quietly solving a problem your ancestors fought for an entire week. By day 4, something else started to build inside that cramped cave: each other. The same handful of people in the same small space for days without a single moment alone. Modern researchers have actually measured what that does to people using astronauts instead of cavemen. Cosmonaut Valentin Lebedev spent 211 days aboard the Mir space station in the 1980s. He later said nearly a third of that time was spent simply managing conflict with his own crew. Studies of scientists trapped together through a polar winter found something just as striking. More than half reported feeling anxious or low, and nearly as many grew irritable, forgetful, and sleepless. Then versus you, being cooped up with the same people for days doesn't just feel hard, it measurably is hard. Space researchers now recommend deliberately stepping away for a few minutes at the first sign of tension, something a storm-trapped cave rarely allowed. So the ones who survived a rainy week weren't always the strongest, they were often the ones who calmed down first. Every raised voice risked the one thing a small, storm-trapped group truly couldn't survive without: each other. But trapped hands don't stay empty for long, and boredom, it turns out, has its own strange power. In a cave called Blombos in South Africa, archaeologists found a 100,000-year-old workshop for grinding pigment. Archaeologist Christopher Henshelwood, who published the find in 2011, called it a genuine production line. Grinding, mixing, and storing pigment that precisely takes real time, exactly the kind long trap days provide. Long stretches of forced stillness may have quietly pushed people toward their most careful, skillful work. Then versus you, the rainy day hobby you finally get around to has a 100,000-year-old ancestor of its own. Some researchers even suspect long, dark, storm-bound hours nudge people toward drawing on their own cave walls. Nobody knows for certain why cave art began, but boredom, patience, and firelight were always sitting right there. With nowhere left to go, people also did something else. They simply started talking for hours. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner, who studied the Jew/Hoansi people in 2014, found their firelit nights were reserved specifically for storytelling, myth, and memory. Those storytelling nights carried real information too: warnings about predators, memories of past floods, lessons passed to children word by word. Long, trapped nights like these may be exactly where the oldest stories of family tales got their start. And sometimes, the storm wasn't just a bad week. It was the entire unpredictable climate itself. During the last ice age, temperatures could swing dramatically within a single human lifetime, not gently, but violently. Scientists call these sudden swings Danskardosher events, and some pushed average temperatures up or down within only a few decades. When climate swings turned harshest, some regions saw their entire population fall by half within only a few generations. In places with no caves at all, people couldn't just wait it out, they had to build their own. Long before mammoth bones, some groups improved simple grass shelters instead, pinching bundles of thatch tightly together until rain simply ran off, layer by layer. Others stretched tanned hides tightly over a wood frame instead, creating shelters that were waterproof, wind-resistant, and warm inside, even in a downpour. In what is now Ukraine, people built entire round houses out of mammoth bones and hide. Each round structure stretched 12 to 14 feet across, built from the skulls, jaws, and tusks of dozens of mammoths. Archaeologist Wei Chu of Leiden University dated one of those structures in 2025, and the result was stunning. That single mammoth bone house was rebuilt and reused for more than 400 years, storm after storm. Then versus you, your roof is the direct descendant of a bone and hide structure that outlasted centuries of storms. One good shelter, it turns out, could keep an entire family line dry for generations after it was built. So what actually got your ancestors through a week of rain wasn't strength, and it wasn't luck. It was the ability to sit still, share a small space, and simply not fall apart together. That forced, boring stillness quietly became the birthplace of pigment, art, and the family story. And every trait that got them through it, patience, cooperation, quiet focus, is still sitting inside you right now. Then versus you, the relief of finally stepping outside after days of rain is a feeling your ancestors invented first. The rain always stopped eventually. What mattered was who you still had beside you when it did. So, what did ancient humans do when it rained all week? They didn't fight the storm, they simply outweighted it together. They built a roof inside a roof, learned to breathe around their own fire, and turned boredom into skill. Same human, different world. If a rainy week stuck at home ever makes you restless, tell us in the comments. What would you have done trapped in that cave? And if you want the next chapter of what being human really felt like before any of this was ordinary, you already know where to click next.